Two British men and a Moroccan national who were captured while fighting with Ukrainian forces have been sentenced to death by a Russian proxy court. It's been slammed by UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, who's pledged to do everything possible to support the men. Our Europe Bureau Chief, Steve Kinane, is following developments from London. Good morning to you, Steve. Highly unusual for enemy combatants taken prisoner to be sentenced to death, surely?
It sure is, Lisa. Normally they're afforded protections under the Geneva Convention. I think this is confirmation once again that when it comes to international law, Russia and pro-Russian rebels do not play by the rules. If you look at how this court case played out, it was on Russia-controlled territory in eastern Ukraine. The process was not open. It wasn't open to the media. It was briefly open to pro-Kremlin media. They were allowed into the court. Also, there are real concerns about forced confessions because the men changed their pleas to guilty. And certainly with Aidan Aslan, the 28-year-old British man who was serving with the Ukrainian army, it looked like he'd been beaten up. So there are real concerns about forced confessions. Liz Truss, as you mentioned, she is the Foreign Secretary here in the UK. She described it as a sham. She said the court has no legitimacy. Aidan Aslan's local MP in Britain described it as a disgusting Soviet-era style show trial. And they are really concerned about this. If you look at the court itself, they were trying to make the case that these men were mercenaries. Now, we know obviously more about the British men because they had profiles here in the media and on social media. And it's quite clear that they were members of the Ukrainian army. They joined the Marines. So it's hard to mount that case that the pro-Russian forces were making in that court case. Now, these men have a month to appeal that death sentence, and if they won that appeal, they would still be facing a life sentence.
Gee, if there were Australians fighting in Ukraine, and we know there are actually, they'd have to be watching this pretty closely.
Lisa, I think all foreign nationals who are fighting in Ukraine would be watching this very, very closely. Of course, whether you are a mercenary or not, I think there's still an argument in international law that you would have protection under Genevan Conventions if you were identified as a combatant. But I do think that any foreign national will be watching this. I think the Ukrainian government will be watching this very closely. And yeah, there's real concerns about this. And given how many Ukrainian soldiers surrendered in Mariupol, there could be dozens, maybe hundreds more of these kind of court cases, and potentially, more of these soldiers facing death penalties.
Steve Kinane, thank you.